Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to this special session on sustaining change, public-private partnerships for climate-resilient eco-villages under the World Sustainable Development Summit 2025. We are gathered here today to discuss how integrated approaches and innovations can scale up climate resilience in India's villages. It is my privilege to invite representatives from GIZ and Hindustan Unilever Limited, the key partners of the Eco Village initiative, to set the context for today's discussion. First, I have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Meghna Kshirsagar, Senior Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy at GIZ India, to deliver the welcome address. Ms. Kshirsagar has over 24 years of professional experience working across government, international and private sectors on sustainability and climate change.
Thank you, Apurva. Good afternoon, everyone. Are we waiting for people from Adarsh Seva Samiti? I'm not very sure. Can someone check? I know it's just lunchtime. We were running late. I think previous sessions also got late, and that's the reason that people are still at the lunch tables. So let's see. But very good afternoon. To begin with, I just extend my warm welcome on behalf of GIZ and HUL. And to go one by one, a warm welcome to all the dignitaries, participants, Dr. Patel, Special Secretary, Department of Irrigation and Water from Government of UP, Mr. Amit Thakur from HUL, Mandira, my focal point for this project from HUL, my senior colleague Gerald from GIZ, people from partner organizations, Adarsh Seva Samiti, Parmarth, Samaj, Sevi, Sansthan, C-Trani-Y, WRI. Warm welcome to all of you and the participants here. This is really a privilege to be here today and to share a kind of the journey that we had. We started, 2.5 years, 3 years back through this project called Creating a Model for Eco Village. We were trying to create a kind of a message to communicate as a local to global message that, if these community initiatives are being taken, then, what kind of impacts that could generate at a global developmental agenda and what kind of contribution it will have at the global developmental agenda. So that was the kind of a thought process that we thought when we started this project designing. And before actually, share the agenda for today's discussion and where we are, how we started, I will just give you a kind of a background or a genesis for this entire, thing that for which we are here. I know most of you must be aware about GIZ. We are basically an international development cooperation agency working on behalf of federal German government. And in India, we are working for last 60 plus years now. There are 4 major verticals that we are working in India: environment, energy, sustainable urban and industrial development, and green mobility. So these are the 4 verticals that we are working. As an operational modality, GIZ works through 2 processes. One is the bilateral cooperation, through which we work with government ministries, state government, departments. And there is another modality, which is basically public-private sector cooperation. So today's gathering is about a project that we actually designed and then implemented with Hindustan Unilever, which is Unilever's Indian subsidiary. And the journey started in 2021, when we actually came together under this PPP modality. And we started designing this project they were coming up with a lot of learnings and their outreach from their factory sites. And there were communities for which they were working. They had some experiences. We came together with our policy advocacy and capacity building expertise. We came together and then we designed this project called Creating a Model for Eco Villages, generating a message from local to global. You can see we have people from the communities here from Punjab, Patiala district, and people from Uttar Pradesh, from Hamirpur district. They will be here to share their experience of this project. So from 2021 onwards, we started implementation of this project in these two locations, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. And generally, when we actually think about these kind of projects, like, creating a model for eco-village, people think that, oh, okay, so, you are going to transform entire village like, a green village, which is a bit of a, very higher expectation considering the resources that, a single pilot project put in, and also the initiatives that you could, actually think about. So we just zero down with 3 basic parameters that we call 3 verticals of the project, thinking that what are the basic needs and the challenges of these communities. And then we just we thought and we came up with 3 verticals for this project, which is basically providing them a potable drinking water, increasing access to potable drinking water, inculcating some better waste management practices for wet waste and for plastic waste, and also bringing them some kind of an approaches whereby they can, decrease their carbon footprint. So we thought that these 3 could be like a pilot scale activities to start with these communities, and then, having a kind of an outreach event like this, and then, spreading the message across that, what we actually experimented, what we learned, and where is the way forward. So this is kind of a project that we thought of. GIZ brings in the project expertise on capacity building, landscape assessment, and policy advocacy, while HUL actually put in a lot of efforts on real intervention on ground with communities. So at a core of this project is basically a sustainable, inclusive community development by the communities, for the communities. So that is the idea of this project. I'll just quickly also tell you the partner landscape, because, from the entire journey, we learned that, without an ecosystem of cooperation, these kind of efforts in isolation cannot be fulfilled. And while we started, there were a couple of these organizations I just mentioned, Adarsh Seva Samiti, Parmarth Seva, Samaj, Sevi, Sansthan. They bring in the community connect. You can see the people here. And when the community connect is there, only then you can reach out and, you can talk to them, and then, start your intervention on a pilot basis. You can have your entry through these organizations, the grassroots organizations. Then we also had CTRAN EY as a partner, corporate partner, who actually, brought in expertise for landscape assessment. They built capacity building, capacity development frameworks for us for the sustainability of this model. Going by, we also had environmental agencies, IORA and Vertiver. They helped us in, basically conducting a carbon budgeting exercise for the project, which was a baseline exercise and then the end line exercise, just to ensure that whatever interventions that we actually thought of and piloted, are they creating kind of a, carbon footprint, decreasing carbon footprint and increasing handprints. So for that, IORA helped us in this assessment, and Vertiver helped us in, culminating and, compiling entire knowledge base that we generated out of this project. Last but not the least, Vivek is here from WRI, World Resources Institute. They helped us in compilation of this knowledge base, what we call eco-village. So when we are calling it an eco-village, there are a couple of other terminologies saying climate smart village, green village, sustainable village. So what are these approaches? So there are data-centric insights that we brought in, and today we are going to release that compilation for the benefit of all of you, and then also discussing with you a kind of a way forward from this entire approach. So this is a nutshell. I just wanted to give you a background, a genesis. And in next, I think, 80 minutes, we will unpack this entire project through presentations, our learnings, and then discuss, hear from Heera Lalji, who is bringing in a lot of grassroots and level experiences from the communities. We will be hearing from the communities what is their experience, how they are feeling about this initiative, and where they want to go ahead with this initiative forward. So I'll take a pause here and hand it over to Apurva for next agenda item. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kshirsagar, for providing this great context on the discussions ahead. Now, I have the pleasure to invite Ms. Mandira Nagrath, who leads the Sustainable Community Initiatives of Hindustan Unilever Limited for the project Prabhat, where she spearheads a strong development agenda for manufacturing sites across India. Her work over 18 years has spanned education, livelihoods, environmental stewardship, and sustainable infrastructure development. Over to you.
Very good afternoon to everyone. I think Meghna has done a superb job of really setting the context for all of us. So I don't have too much to say, but I think I will just bring in the HUL context and why we partnered with GIZ. So I think this project really finds the sweet spot between our priorities as a company and the priorities GIZ has set aside for itself. Meghna, of course, spoke a lot about, understanding the landscape, etc., before we went on to create the project. But I think we were able to address a very real need that we were hearing from the ground. Our communities around our factories are conscious that there are issues around environment that they're facing, be it water, be it agriculture. So they're very aware of it, and they were articulating it. Drinking water, which Meghna spoke of, is a recurrent request that we get to say this is now a problem, and we want, we want a way to solve this. So it was really that, it was finding the perfect fit. And when we looked at water, it was, of course, in the GIZ project, we looked largely on drinking water, but as a company, we work extensively on conservation of water. And on the same sites, we continued to work on conservation. So it was creating water potential for communities. It was working on agriculture. And in addition to that, it was looking at drinking water. So while we looked at water for communities, we also started saying water for drinking. And in the same vein, we realized that waste and managing waste is now a challenge for communities. Our panchayats are not equipped to manage the kind of waste that is coming in. And therefore, we took a very intensive project to say we will work from behavior change, segregation of waste at household level, right to collection, managing that waste, and then recycling, upcycling. So really the entire chain of activities. That was a big part of our program, and we've done it at all 3 sites, so Rajpura and Nabha at Punjab, and Sumerpur in Uttar Pradesh. Big part of our work, and like I said, very behavior intensive. And then the last piece was on carbon, and we worked on really creating awareness, is what I would say, and at the same time looking at tree plantations to help reduce the carbon footprint at communities. The project was, we would call it a success, and we will have Kaushik and Sankalp coming and sharing some numbers with you to really show you what those outcomes were like. What did we set for ourselves and what did we achieve? But obviously we had challenges along the way, so it's never so simple. And I wouldn't go on that and discuss that. I would leave that to our partner NGOs, because they were really the ones running it for us on ground. So when you hear from Adarsh and you hear from Parmarth, that's when we'll get the flavor of what was it that we had to overcome to deliver this project. But a couple of things I felt that went well for us. Very solid community participation. That really held us in good stead. Addressing needs that were either articulated or not articulated, but definitely present. So therefore we could resonate with communities, and taking people along with us on the journey. So as participative as it was possible. Those are the 3 things that really helped us along. As the program comes to an end, the partnership comes to an end in March, I think there are 2 things that I want to bring as a part of our closure. So while the project closes, we will continue to work in the communities. We will continue the programs that we've started, so they will sustain in the communities. We've also found for ourselves a good model. So what we worked out at Rajpura and Nabha is very much replicable. If others want to pick up from that, wonderful. If not, even within the HUL ecosystem, we have enough scope to kind of take these 3 pillars to different sites, and with some tweaks, with local flavor, have them rolling out at other sites. So in terms of long-term sustainability, they definitely will continue to sustain. And the fact that there is a lot of people participation will also add to the long-term sustainability. That's really about it in a nutshell. It's been a wonderful experience to partner with GIZ and all our partners who've been with us on the journey. And thank you very much. Hand back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Nagrath, for setting the tone for the session. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Gerald Guskowski, Cluster Coordinator of GIZ Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resource Management Cluster, to share his valuable perspective on public-private partnerships for eco-villages. With extensive experience across Africa, Germany, and Asia, he now leads this focal area in India, overseeing over 200 employees and a yearly turnover exceeding 40 million euros.
So thanks a lot for inviting me. First of all, dear partners, representatives from the government of Uttar Pradesh, and also it's a particular pleasure for me also to welcome our colleagues from Hindustan Unilever. And it's always a bit difficult to speak after a lunch break. I hope I'm not too boring when talking now. But this is also a topic that comes close to my heart, so it should not be too difficult for me. Yeah? First of all, I always try to explain why Germany is engaging in India on climate topics. And for us, it has two reasons. One of the reasons is particularly climate change is a topic that we have to tackle globally, and that cannot only be tackled locally. And for us, India is a very important, reliable partner on this topic, and where we can also drive the global agenda together. The second one that is of importance is in the topic of climate change. We are facing new challenges. This means we don't have solutions for everything. We have to work with pilots, find out what is working. It's on so many levels that the solutions are quite often not obvious. So everything that we are developing together, being it with Indian counterparts, being it also with private sector, is something that can be used also in other contexts, on other continents, etc. So for us, it's also always a kind of identifying processes, technology, etc., to drive climate change adaptation, but also mitigation. The other thing that's for me always extremely important and interesting is, for me, it's cooperation means we have to find new ways of cooperating, and we have to look across boundaries. And for me, one of the, our traditional way to do development cooperation or international cooperation was always government to government. And this is a good thing, and we are completely committed to our cooperation with the Indian government, but we need more actors in it. And one of the key actors for us is the private sector. And I can tell you why. It's if the private sector is engaged in something, and if it's close to a business model, this guarantees sustainability. If I have a successful business model in something, I'm continuing with it, I'm upscaling. Then on top of it, the private sector is important for the development of technology, for example. And I think in the governmental institutions, we are not so good in these things. And when now coming to models where we need all these things together, I think private sector is an important partner, and is also important for investments. If I have a good business model, I'm investing in something. And this comes close to my heart because for quite some time, when I was working for GIZ in Germany, I was heading the sector of cooperation with the private sector. That was, of course, being based in Germany. We had global projects, etc. So also the funds this project is coming from was under my supervision. But of course, then in Germany, talking a lot with European companies. But it's a global thing. So its private sector is globalized and working in a global environment with global supply chains. So it's important to find ways to cooperate. It's also including Indian private sector, etc. So talking about this, I think it's a great initiative that we have this cooperation and we have to further explore. And this also means sometimes a bit of rethinking for us. So when engaging with private sector, what are their needs to get into technology development, etc. The private sector also looking at the long term, you can have short-term success, profit, and because you do something that just generates profit on short term. But I'm absolutely convinced that looking at long-term profit, long-term success in your business, you have to tackle sustainability issues. And the companies that are not doing this, they are quickly disappearing. We know of so many companies that were so successful, let's say 30 years ago, and they suddenly disappear from the market because they're not responding to the needs. And I think sustainability is one of the key issues where you have to engage in. That's my strong belief, and absolutely open for any kind of cooperation. And private sector has challenges, ourselves we have challenges. Both together we can develop solutions. So this is an extremely good example for me of this kind of cooperation and something to further explore. So in general, we have championed this collaborative approach, bringing together diverse stakeholders to create impact-driven, scalable solutions. For us, it's always a question, how can we achieve impact with something that we are doing? And this project is a testament to this approach. This initiative is, we call it public-private partnership between Hindustan Unilever Limited and GIZ India, demonstrating how private sector corporations and development agencies can work together, and governments, of course. And we are semi-government, so we are organized as a private sector organization, but we are part of the German government. So we represent a bit both sides, but I would say we are always more the government side to it. And we have to identify ways how we can work together to tackle pressing environmental and social challenges. And we also have to think in different dimensions there. So in my portfolio, we have the topic of biodiversity. So how can we get more partners involved in ensuring biodiversity? And this is, in some topics, if you're tackling the topic of energy, this is private sector, mainly, 90% is private sector. But in the topic of biodiversity, what are our stakeholders there? That we get out of our small pockets in which we are successfully working, but maybe in the end not. We also have to convince politically of what we are doing and trying to achieve a big impact also on scale. The projects focus building water positive, zero waste and carbon neutral communities requires expertise from multiple domains, which is why strategic partnerships are crucial. Any large-scale transformation requires synergy with government policy and schemes. This project aligns with India's sustainability agenda, supporting national missions on water conservation, waste management, and rural livelihoods. and contributes to the larger vision of sustainable lifestyle, the mission life. Close coordination with local governance structures, state governments, ensures policy integration, scalability, and long-term impact. And that's always clear for us. We can somehow drive a certain pilot, develop a model, but then it has to be taken up. And there we would never finance all over India implementation of something big, but we can, together with our Indian partners, develop something that is then sustainable or of interest, and then upscaled by states or in India or national government or private sector in the very end. The Indo-German Chamber of Commerce plays a key role in building sustainable business partnerships and knowledge exchange between India and Germany. Through Indo-German collaborations, we gain access to global best practices in circular economy, green technologies, and community resilient strategies. And again, we are coming from Germany, so sometimes we are bringing in German expertise, but we see ourselves as an international organization. So if we know that the expertise sits in Mexico, we are looking for that expertise, and we're not insisting on bringing German expertise in it. And there are lots of fields where there's much more expertise available in India than in Germany. Yeah? So, but what we see as the opportunity is to bring this expertise together and make the most out of it. And that is also our approach, this global cooperation, trying to identify fields in which we can cooperate. So we are trying to enable cross-sector partnerships that bring innovative and sustainable solutions to the Indian landscape. We are focusing on building multi-stakeholder corporations, as said before, for this purpose. We have partnerships with Indian ministries, state government departments, civil society organizations, and entrepreneurs. With such projects, GIZ aims to capacitate and work with industrial pioneers to demonstrate good case examples, document and share knowledge with the industrial ecosystem at large, and advocate these initiatives with the government for further replication and scaling up to achieve significant impact. Saying so, I'm quite often far away from detailed project implementation, so I'm talking a bit about our context, landscape, partnerships, etc. So I'm also looking forward to understand more what the project has done and achieved, which is maybe the more interesting part of today, and wishing you an interesting event and make most out of it. For me, quite often this kind of networking, hearing what others are doing, what works somewhere, the challenges encountered somewhere, the opportunities identified. It's one important thing. So most welcome and enjoy the event. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Guskowski, for sharing such insightful perspectives with us. And finally, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Amit Thakur, General Manager, Employees Relations for South Asia region, Hindustan Unilever, to share his remarks. With extensive experience in HR and community investment, he also leads social initiatives at Hindustan Unilever's factory sites through Prabhat.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Before I say anything, I guess a lot has been said by Mandira and the team from GIZ. So I'll start by saying that I'm honored to be part of this closing ceremony. While the work that we have done and the shared values that we share between HUL and GIZ, I guess this is just beginning of many journey that will travel together in future for the collective good of the country and the communities around us. Let me start by saying at HUL, at Unilever, we firmly believe whatever is good for India is good for HUL. And that is the principle or essence that follows everything that we do in our operations, in our business, or when we deal with people. I can see a lot of people from communities and villages here who have been impacted. And through this partnership, what I have understood, I've been a bit far from the entire project to be in details, but Mandira has been on top of this, and team from GIZ has been on top of this. But my learning tells me that we can see massive impact in the region of Nabha, Rajpura in Punjab, and Sumerpur in Uttar Pradesh. And just for you to relate better, in Nabha we manufacture Horlicks and Boost. In Rajpura we manufacture, in case you know, the brands like Kisan, Surf Excel, and Ren. In Sumerpur again we manufacture Surf, Ren, Wheel, and Vim. So this is just to tell you, these are the operations where we are in these states, and all these villages, communities have seen massive impact of it. And you know what gives me more confidence? At HUL only we have 30 more factories which can replicate some of it in some tweaked manner. And in each factory there are some CSR programs running, and we proudly copy paste. We don't hesitate to copy paste and do it even better when we do in some other part of our business operations. So thank you the team from GIZ and everyone who has been involved there. Now since I'm here, I'll take one more opportunity to tell you about Unilever's focus and globally what we want to do in the space of CSR. We have a strategy, we call it Growth Action Plan. And under that plan, our focus is always to do something on the lines of sustainability. And 3 pillars that we have sort of identified there are around water, agriculture, and responsible sourcing. And following the recent trend, the next pillar that we focus is the plastics. And a lot of work that goes in those 30 factories that I'm sharing is around these 4 pillars, and not only in India, across many other countries, other geographies. While I represent South Asia, my prime focus has always been India, being an Indian at heart. So I take a lot of pride in the work that happens across these 4 pillars, across the 30 sites. And when it comes to HUL, we have more customized CSR roadmap, and this is for everyone to know. We call it Prabhat, and the pillars that we work, and aim is under Prabhat, to make more empowered and more sustainable livelihoods, communities around us. And we work on the pillars of livelihood. We work on the pillars of health and nutrition. We work on the pillars of sustainability or environment. And for that, we always believe that, collectively we can do much more than we can do in isolation. And that's why we take pride in more and more partnerships. And GIZ has been, one partnership which has given us a good success, and we can really replicate these things in future as well. So thank you there. Again, to reinforce, when we have shared values, journey becomes much more simpler, much more impactful, and that we have experienced with GIZ, and I'm very sure this will continue in future as well. And towards end, I won't do much of the talking, but towards end, I guess everyone who has been involved with the project, from the field, ground teams from GIZ, and the leadership teams there, and Mandira and the entire team from, I'll take opportunity to thank my team as well for the work that has gone there. So kudos to everyone who has been involved, and many more such impactful stories to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thakur. With that, let's deep dive into Eco Village project and hear about the learnings and the impact created. Over the past 3 years, the partnership between the GIZ and Hindustan Unilever Limited has transformed rural communities with sustainable solutions such as water positive strategies, zero waste initiatives, and low carbon innovations. It is my pleasure to invite Sankalp Dubey, Junior Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy at GIZ India, and Kaushik Kumar, Pillar Lead for Environment and Sustainability at Hindustan Unilever Limited, who will take you through the solutions implemented in the villages of Punjab and Uttar Pradesh.
A very warm good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, first of all, for all the addresses that just took place. And so Kaushik and I will basically be taking us all through the entire intervention that happened on ground through the implementation of this particular project, which was from local to global, creating a model for eco-villages. Now, this has already been discussed, but I'll just take you quickly over the locations. It was in Uttar Pradesh. There were 2 villages called Inkuhota and Baki, whereas in Punjab as well, we were working in 2 villages, Shambhu Kalan and Roti Khas in Patiala. Yeah. So the entire objective of this particular project was to build sustainable and resilient communities, mostly around the Hindustan Unilever factory sites. But we wanted to do this by addressing key environmental challenges in these regions. We came up with 3 focus areas primarily. These were water positive communities with a focus on the drinking water component. Zero waste to landfill, as waste management was seen to be a major point of contention in these particular areas. And lastly, we wanted to overall, in a manner, create lower carbon footprint communities. And to achieve these objectives, we had 4 project phases. Of course, we started with scoping the entire landscape. This included a baseline assessment of understanding what all was the business as usual scenario and what needed to be done in order to, number 1, revalidate the objectives that had already been chosen, and number 2, to come up with potent entry-level activities that would help us further build trust within the communities, as was pointed out also by Mandira, that without community support and trust, it would also almost be impossible to not only implement the project, but also maybe dream of sustaining it long term. Then we worked on capacity development, which we will further discuss in the presentation. And then the pure pilot intervention started, and learning and disclosure was something that was going on throughout, be it during the scoping phase, the capacity development, or the pilot interventions. Now, I would like to invite Kaushik to take us through the hardcore interventions that were happening on ground.
Thank you, Sankalp. So I'll be taking you all through whatever the key focus areas that we have been driving in these villages. So we'll start with the water positive communities first. So what we have observed is that to develop a comprehensive water positive community in a village, we need a very strong local governance institutions and individuals to drive these sustainable interventions. So what we have done is we have started with developing and strengthening the local governance institutions, like we have formed Pani Panchayats and also Jal Sahelis. So basically these are voluntarily community-based organizations who help us decide our priorities, match our project requirements and their community needs. They also help us in detailing what is the order of activities that we should take place, and they also monitor our interventions on ground, so that they are being participated right from the inception phase to the execution and sustainability phase. So we have Pani Panchayat, who broadly deals with water conservation activities, and we have Jal Saheli groups who leads our drinking water interventions. So for example, in Sumerpur, we have formed 2 Pani Panchayat committees, 2 villages, 2 Pani Panchayat committees comprising of 41 members, and 2 Jal Saheli groups of 8 members. So with this strong local governance at place, then we start taking initiatives around water. So generally, the framework that we follow is we also cater to supply side management, we also cater to demand side management in terms of water. So under supply side management, we try to create the water potential through rejuvenating or through developing new water harvesting structures in the villages, in the catchment, so that the water potential of the entire catchment or the village is increased, which is addressing the sustainable water balance at place. So in all the 4 villages, we had rejuvenated around 10 water structures, which comprises of ponds, check dams, roof rainwater harvesting structures through which we could develop a water potential, assured water potential of 2.11 billion liters of water. So at HUL, we also have a strong assurance process that a third party takes place where they come audit our interventions and then they give us the final KPI value. So this 2.11 billion liter is as per financial year 23-24. It's an assured value. So through these interventions, we were able to treat over 2,000 hectares of catchment area in all the 4 villages and directly benefit around 1,700 farmers. In the other side, which I was talking about, is the demand side interventions. Demand side interventions, basically, we all know that agriculture is one of the major water consumer if we see the industry landscape in India. So contributing to water savings through demand side interventions in agricultural aspect or agri-linked interventions is where we can maximize our impact. So what we generally do is we use a powerful methodology or a powerful tool to implement demand side interventions. For example, we develop demonstration plots. We call them as demo plots. Through these demo plots at each villages, we have developed around 32 demo plots in all these 4 villages. So through these demo plots, what we try to do is we implement all the improved agriculture practices that we have designed, taking in consideration of local cropping pattern, local hydrogeological conditions, and local climate. We develop a set of package of practices in improved agriculture practice, and we demonstrate through these demo plots. So once the farmers, local farmers get to understand of what we do, why are we doing it, and what is the ultimate, output from these demo plots, then they start. Then the adoption rate is very fast. If we, if we generally go without a demo plot, without some demonstrative activity, the adoption rate is very weak. So hence, it is a very powerful tool for us to maximize the adoption of improved agriculture practices. We have, through this demand side interventions, we were able to save around 0.4 billion liters of water, and we have also generated additional agriculture production of around 125 tons. So we come through a perspective that we need to save water, we need to save environment, we need to address all the shared water challenges. But for a farmer to participate in this process, it is there should be some additional a benefit for the farmers too, and that benefit is, while they are adopting this package of practices of improved agriculture, there's a significant cost reductions in inputs that are required for the agriculture, and there's also, due to the additional agriculture production at the end, due to additional yield, there is also an impact of additional income. So this becomes a point for them to participate in our demand side activities. Then, as Mandira also has mentioned in in her message, that drinking water is one of the key aspects that is coming from the community, that we need access to quality drinking water, because the quality of water itself is degrading over the years due to various pollution sources. But access to drinking water is a critical journey for us within the community. So in this project, we have set up around 4 treatment units of drinking water in all the 4 villages, where we have addressed and covered around over 400 households, comprising of around over 2,000 individuals. Until now, we have dispensed around 0.4 lakh liters of water to the community. This was a recent initiative for us because we have we have very strong SOPs in place, and this was a new intervention. So what we have done is we have piloted this at a certain another location, another factory location. Then we have developed processes around it. We have developed monitoring and evaluation process around it, and then we have come up with a strong SOP and with a strong model in place, and then we started implementing in these villages. The next major aspect is waste management. We all know that the villages that we have worked in had little amount of waste management practice in place before our project started. There was no treatment, there was no collection of waste, there was no addressing the waste properly. Generally, there were open landfills in the villages. So what we have done, what our entire process is, we have started, like in initial few months of the project, we have heavily invested in behavioral change activities, because waste management or waste, to run a successful waste program, we need behavior change at household, at individual level, so that the key to the process of successful waste management is segregating at the source and reduction at the source. So to address this, we have invested a lot in behavioral change communication activities in the initial period. And through that, then we have started, collecting the waste door to door through our, we have around 9 electric e-rickshaws basically, which helps us to collect the waste from door to door. Then we take it to the waste management shed. We have around 4 waste management shed, 1 waste management shed for each village. So we then segregate the waste further and treat the waste further in the waste management shed. So through these processes, we were able to address the entire, entire issue of open dumping of waste. Or so we could cover over 3,700 households where we are collecting the waste from door to door. We have benefited around over 19,000 people. 82 this is a very strong point that we were able to achieve 82% segregation at household level. We started with 30, then gradually it went to 45, 60, and now we are standing at 82%, where this waste segregation happens at household level. So this was a pivotal point for us as part of our achievement. And we have also achieved, again this is an assured value, we have achieved 86% waste diversion rate, which means we have 86% of the waste which was supposed to end in landfill, we have collected it and treated it in a environmentally responsible manner. Next, I'll hand it over to Sankalp to speak about carbon footprint.
Thanks, Kaushik. So as far as the reducing carbon footprint thematic area was concerned, we basically addressed it in two ways. The number one was a direct addressing of this, which was through plantation of indigenous species and fast-growing trees. So through the project, we basically planted 1522 indigenous trees, and over 1 year of them being planted, 73.5 ton CO2 equivalent of carbon was reduced. Now this number is only for 1 year, but we also did a carbon budgeting exercise, which gave us an idea of if these plantations continue for say 5 years, 10 years or 30 years, then the potential for reduction or creating a carbon sink was much higher. Then secondly, as Kaushik already mentioned about the dry waste and wet waste management, these were also areas where if things would have continued in business as usual terms, where dry waste was being burnt and wet waste was being openly dumped. Because of the project's activities, there was an 88% emission reduction due to activities undertaken in the dry waste category, whereas there was a 14% emission reduction due to wet waste management categories. Now the number discrepancy exists because mostly wet waste was being managed at the household level to a certain degree, even though these were open dumping sites, so the hygienic components were always there, but that is why the numbers show a slight discrepancy. But especially in dry waste management, the impacts were very encouraging. Then another aspect of this entire project was training and awareness building. We had CTRAN Consulting, which is a subsidiary and now owned by EY, Ernst & Young. 23 training sessions were conducted, 540 individuals were trained, and a variety of training methods were used. The entire importance of holding such training and awareness sessions was that the projects have an end date, but the knowledge, dissemination, and awareness that is built on ground within the community would outlast the existing project's activities. So with that idea, we had actually conducted these training and awareness sessions. And lastly, we had an entire focus on building outreach and focusing on government collaboration. Under this, we had actually, especially the partners on ground, Adarsh and Parmarth, helped with leveraging existing government schemes, like Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, like the Tide Fund, like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Act. So all of these actually also help us build a particular amount of project sustainability, especially at the block and district level. Lastly, we also conducted a stakeholder event in Uttar Pradesh, where the entire focus was on the participation of not only industry leaders, but also members from private corporations, NGOs, CSOs, and government agencies in order to build focus on strengthening these public-private partnerships. And also focusing on commitment towards scaling these project activities and also building synergies with other activities that might already be going on, because it often ends up happening that projects are working in silos. So to get those opportunities for synergizing was one of the reasons why these activities were undertaken. These are some of the glimpses from that particular event. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Sankalp and Kaushik. At the heart of any sustainable change are the real human stories of transformation. Today, we have the privilege of hearing these first-hand accounts from those who are leading change on the ground. May I now invite Mr. Amardeep Asati, Project Manager at Parmarth Samaj Sevi Sansthan, and Dr. Rajesh Kumar, the Executive Director of Adarsh Seva Samiti, to come on the stage along with their colleagues to share the vignettes of their grassroots work on eco-villages.
नमस्कार सभी को। मैं चाहूँगा कि हमारी पानी पंचायत समिति के अध्यक्ष भी उपस्थित हों। तो सबसे पहले आप सभी को नमस्कार। हम परमार्थ समाज सेवी संस्थान से हैं। हम लोग उत्तर प्रदेश के सुमेरपुर में जल संरक्षण के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं। निश्चित तौर पे शुरुआत से, जब से कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत हुई है, तब से हम जल संरक्षण और ख़ासकर वेस्ट के ऊपर बात कर रहे हैं। इस पूरे के पूरे कार्यक्रम में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, साथ में इस पूरे के पूरे कार्यक्रम में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं मॉडल इको विलेज की परिकल्पना की, इस मॉडल इको विलेज के बनाने में जो सबसे अहम योगदान है वो यहाँ की जो लोकल कम्युनिटी है, निश्चित तौर पे उनका है। तो जब परमार्थ समाज सेवी संस्थान का जो पहला काम होता है, चूँकि हम लोग जल संरक्षण के ऊपर काम करने वाली संस्थान है, तो किसी भी परिवेश में और ख़ासकर बुंदेलखंड जैसे सूखा प्रभावित क्षेत्र में हम काम की बात करते हैं, तो सबसे पहले जो बात आती है वो आती है कि वहाँ की सामुदायिक सहभागिता, क्योंकि किसी भी काम को करने के लिए सबसे बड़े जो ऊर्जा का स्रोत है वो वहाँ का लोकल कम्युनिटी है। जब तक स्थानीय समुदाय का सहयोग और उनका खुद का योगदान उस यात्रा में नहीं होगा, जब तक वो कोई भी यात्रा सफल नहीं हो सकती है। तो उसी के माध्यम से हमने इसका शुरुआत किया और हमने इस कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत पानी पंचायत समिति नाम के एक संगठन की शुरुआत की। ये संगठन के माध्यम से हमने गांव के हर एक मोहल्ले, हर एक जाति वर्ग के लोगों को एक साथ केंद्रित किया, और चूँकि पूरा का पूरा जो सोच और अवधारणा थी वो पानी के इर्द गिर्द थी, तो इस संगठन का नाम ही हमने रखा पानी पंचायत समिति। और यही पानी पंचायत समिति ने उस पूरे गांव को जो मॉडल इको विलेज बनाने की यात्रा थी उसमें एक सबसे अहम योगदान दिया। न केवल गांव में जल से संबंधित मुद्दों के चिन्हांकन में, उसके रूपांतरण में, उसकी कैसी कार्य योजना तैयार की जाए, उसके क्रियान्वयन में, और एक लंबे समय तक उसको कैसे लेकर के जा सके, उसके तौर पर ये पानी पंचायत समिति संगठन जो है उसने काम किया। परियोजना के अंतर्गत हम लोगों ने जहाँ एक और वर्षा जल संरक्षण के स्रोतों के ऊपर काम किया, चूँकि पानी बचाने के दो ही तरीके हैं। एक कि सभी को पता है कि पानी का स्रोत जो है वो बारिश है, एकमात्र स्रोत है बारिश। तो पहला काम है कि बारिश के पानी को कैसे हम संरक्षित कर सकते हैं। तो जाहिर सी बात है, बहते हुए पानी को रोका जाए, रोके हुए पानी को और स्थिर किया जाए और उस पानी को पुनर्भरण किया जाए, ग्राउंड वाटर में रिचार्ज किया जाए। तो ये दोनों तरीके के प्रयास हमने इस परियोजना के अंतर्गत किए। इस कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत हमने गांव में जो सामुदायिक तालाब थे, जो जीर्ण शीर्ण अवस्था में थे, खासकर जो अतिक्रमण की चपेट में आ चुके थे, क्योंकि गांव में जो तालाबों का अस्तित्व एकदम समाप्ति की ओर है। तो इन तालाबों को हमने स्थानीय जो समुदाय है, जो पानी पंचायत समिति और जल सहेली के माध्यम से इनको दोबारा से पुनरुद्धार कराया गया। ये सबसे बड़ा काम था। गांव के ऐसे अर्दन डैम जो ब्रिटिश कालीन साम्राज्य से स्थापित किए हैं, चंदेल कालीन और बुंदेलकालीन समय के बनाए गए हैं, जो 400-500 साल पुराने अर्दन डैम में जो डिफंक्ट हो चुके थे, ऐसी जन संरचनाओं को आइडेंटिफाइड करके उन संरचनाओं के पुनर्भरण और उनके मरम्मत का कार्य कराया गया। और साथ ही साथ सामुदायिक सहभागिता के साथ में जो खासकर शासकीय बिल्डिंग है, आधिकारिक बिल्डिंग है, उन बिल्डिंगों के ऊपर रूफ रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग स्ट्रक्चर की स्थापना कराएगी, जिससे उस पूरे क्षेत्र के ग्राउंड वाटर को रिचार्ज किया जा सके। साथ ही साथ जो स्थानीय किसान हैं उनको सिंचाई सुविधा का विकास हो सके। और इन सब में जो सबसे बड़ी भूमिका में है वो पानी पंचायत कैसे इन चीज़ों को आगे रख रखाव पे काम कर सकती है, उस पर हम लोगों ने प्रयास किया। चूँकि बात अभी यहाँ समाप्त नहीं होगी, क्योंकि अभी हमने जो पानी था उसको कंजर्वेशन की बात की कि हम बारिश के पानी को कैसे संरक्षित कर सकते हैं। अब बात आती है कि जो पानी उपलब्ध है उस पानी का कितना बेहतर तरीके से हम उपयोग कर सकें, एग्जिस्टिंग जो वाटर है उसका कितना एफिशिएंटली यूज़ कर सकें। क्योंकि पानी की जो सबसे ज़्यादा खपत है वो लगभग 97.5%, 97.5% सिर्फ कृषि में उपयोग होता है। तो जाहिर सी बात है सबसे बड़ा स्कोप ऑफ वर्क भी हमारे पास में वही है, खासकर रूरल एरिया में, जहाँ पर ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में किसानों के द्वारा खेतों की सिंचाई में जहाँ पानी का उपयोग हो रहा है, हमने उस पर प्रयास किया कि कैसे हम कम पानी वाली फसलों को प्रोत्साहित कर सकते हैं। गेहूं की फसल जहां तकनीकी भाषा में अगर मैं कहूं तो 8,264 क्यूबिक मीटर पर हेक्टेयर पानी की खपत होती है, अगर उसको हम मटर की क्रॉप से रिप्लेस करते हैं तो मात्र 2,409 क्यूबिक मीटर प्रति हेक्टेयर, यानी कि लगभग 1/4 पानी की आवश्यकता होती है। मैं ये दोनों ही संदर्भ एक साथ ले रहा हूँ क्योंकि हम ग्रामीण परिवेश के साथ में भी काम कर रहे हैं, हम तकनीकी मापदंडों के साथ भी काम कर रहे हैं। तो गेहूं में जहाँ 4 पानी की आवश्यकता पड़ती है, वहाँ पे सरसों और मटर की खेती मात्र 1 से 2 पानी में खेती की जा सकती है। तो ऐसे छोटे छोटे प्रयास कि ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज को मॉडर्न साइंस के साथ में जोड़ते हुए हमने उन प्रयासों किया। और इन सब कार्यों के बीच में जहाँ पानी पंचायत समिति और जल सहेली ने हमें योगदान दिया हुआ है, मैं चाहूँगा कि आज वो हमारे बीच में यहाँ पर इस मंच पर उपस्थित हैं। मैं हमारे पानी पंचायत समिति ग्राम अंगोटा से अरविंद जी यहाँ पर उपस्थित है और साथ ही साथ हमारी जल सहेली जमीला जी भी यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं। मैं अरविंद जी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि पानी पंचायत के बारे में संक्षिप्त में 2 लाइनें और पानी पंचायत समिति कैसे अभी काम कर रही है उसके बारे में यहाँ पर बताएं।
धन्यवाद सर। यहाँ पर उपस्थित सभी लोगों को मैं एक दिशा जो गांव में मुहिम आई मेरे हम लोगों ने देखी, पानी का स्टेटस जो था वो 10 फीट 15 फीट पे था मेरे गांव में, और कुछ ही समय चंदेलकालीन जो वो बट थे वो टूट गए, तो उसके बाद वहाँ पर जो जल भराव था वो पूरा बह जाता था। तो कंडीशन ये आ गई कि 100 फीट 120 फीट में वाटर हमारा चला गया धीरे धीरे, और जो पहले की जो 90 फीट के बोर थे वो लगभग पूरे गांव के सारे खराब हो गए। और फिर यहाँ से संस्था जैसे ही 10 साल पहले हमारे यहाँ पर स्टार्ट करती है तो सब लोग चिन्हित करते हैं कि समस्या मेन क्या है। ये एक बहुत बड़ी खूबसूरती है इनकी, इन्होंने जो सपोर्ट हमें किया नॉलेज पे। तो लोगों ने ये देखा कि पानी अभी ये स्थिति में है, और अगर ये लेवल नीचे जाता है तो इसके बाद फिर वो 400-500 फीट से वो लोग बोर करा भी नहीं पाएंगे, क्योंकि ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था बहुत कमज़ोर है। तो पानी का स्टेटस वो बंड बनने से, चेक डैम बनने से, और गांव में जो वाटर बॉडीज़ थी उनका पुनरुद्धार करने से जो चीज़ आगे आई, तो पानी का स्टेटस इस समय 40 फीट से 60 फीट में है और बहुत आसानी से पानी उपलब्ध है। लेकिन साथ साथ एक ये समस्या ठीक हुई है, लेकिन दूसरी समस्या आ गई है कि पानी काफ़ी ज़्यादा दूषित हो चुका है। उसकी कंडीशन में तो ग्रामीण में सभी लोगों, मेरे 2-3-4 जो मोहल्ले होते हैं गांव में, वहाँ पर 3-4 साल का डेटा है, करीब 40 लोग कैंसर से ख़त्म हुए 3-4 साल के डेटा में। तो उसमें भी इस कम्युनिटी लेवल में सबने मिलकर डिसाइड किया कि गांव में एक आरओ प्लांट हो जाए तो सबको पानी मिल जाएगा, अच्छा मिल जाएगा। तो उसमें भी काम किया गया, और अभी संस्था के सहयोग से गांव, ओके टाइम थोड़ा कम है, मैं 1 मिनट में ही इसको कंप्लीट करता हूँ। तो पानी जो है अब पीने योग्य है, और लगभग से 42 नए लोगों को उसमें जोड़ा जा चुका है और वाटर प्लांट एक्टिव है। मेरा टाइम अभी ख़त्म होता है, धन्यवाद।
अरविंद जी माफ़ी चाहूँगा, आपका समय समाप्त नहीं हुआ है, आपका समय यहाँ से शुरू हुआ है, क्योंकि ये पूरा का पूरा जो कार्यक्रम है ये समुदाय आधारित कार्यक्रम है। निश्चित तौर पे जल संरक्षण की जो यात्रा हमने यहाँ प्रारंभ की है वो आप जैसे ही लोगों के माध्यम से पानी पंचायत समिति की अगुवाई में इसको आगे बढ़ाया जाएगा। मैं सिर्फ 2 मिनट का समय लेकर के एक जिक्र करना चाहता हूँ। इनके गांव में मैडम एक तालाब है, कजलिया का तालाब, गांव के बीचों बीच ये तालाब है। तालाब में चारों ओर के गांव का गंदा पानी उसमें केंद्रित होता था और उस तालाब में पानी पंचायत समिति के द्वारा अगुवाई में काम करते हुए उस पूरे तालाब का पुनरुद्धार कार्य कराया गया। क्योंकि अतिक्रमण की जब स्थिति होती है, आप सभी लोग अवगत है कि उस स्थिति में प्रशासन और एक स्थानीय व्यक्ति के माध्यम से उस चीज़ को उन्मूलन कराया जा सकता है, तो उसमें एक सबसे बड़ा योगदान इन लोगों का रहा हुआ है। दूसरा कि एक गांव बाकी है, जिस दूसरे प्रोजेक्ट एरिया की हम बात कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे चेक डैम जो आज से लगभग 20 साल पहले बनाया गया था, उस चेक डैम में पूरा पूरा क्षरण हो चुका था। तो दूसरा एक वो सबसे बड़ा उदाहरण था कि जिसमें जल संरक्षण के माध्यम से ना केवल किसानों की उत्पादकता में वृद्धि, उनको सिंचाई सुविधा विकसित हुई है, साथ ही साथ उस पानी से ग्राउंड वाटर रिचार्ज होने की वजह से एक लॉन्ग टर्म सस्टेनेबिलिटी भी इंश्योर हुई है। मैं आगे आमंत्रित करना चाहूँगा हमारे बीच में उपस्थित जल सहेली को कि वो आएँ और कैसे अभी वो स्वच्छ पेयजल शोधन इकाई के लिए समुदाय को केंद्रित कर रही हैं, लोगों को जागरूक कर रही हैं, उसके बारे में यहाँ वक्तव्य रखें। खासकर जो आपका जो वाटर क्वालिटी टेस्टिंग का जो काम है उसके बारे में यहाँ पर हम सबों का ज्ञानवर्धन करें। जमीला जी।
धन्यवाद सर। और मैं बुंदेलखंड क्षेत्र से आई हूँ, जो कि सूखा के लिए जाना जाता है। हर दूसरे साल उधर सूखा पड़ता है और महिलाओं का ज़्यादातर संबंध पानी से ही होता है। घर के पूरे कामों में महिलाओं का, ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में महिलाएं ज़्यादातर हाउसवाइफ ही होती हैं, तो उनका ज़्यादातर संबंध पानी से होता है। हम लोगों ने फिर हमारे इधर जल जीवन परियोजना आई और परमार्थ समाज सेवी संस्था, तो समाज सेवी परमार्थ समाज सेवी संस्था के अंतर्गत मुझे जल सहेली चुना और मैंने फिर घर घर जाके जो पानी की टेस्टिंग है उसकी टेस्टिंग करी। फिर उसमें पता चला कि हमारे इधर का पानी प्रदूषित है। फिर मोहल्ले वाई जाके, गांव वाई जाके पूरे गांव का पानी हम लोगों ने टेस्ट किया, तो उसमें पता चला कि हमारे पूरे गांव का पानी प्रदूषित है। इसी की वजह से जो 4 साल से उधर मृत्यु हो रही हैं, इसी की वजह से इंसान मृत्यु हो रही है और कैंसर से ज़्यादातर पीड़ित इंसान है उधर। तो फिर हम परमार्थ समाज सेवी संस्था के तहत उधर वाटर ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट लगा, जो अब उधर शुद्ध पेयजल मिल रहा है। और इसी संस्था के अंतर्गत हम लोगों ने संगठन बनाए और उधर 10 जल सहेलियाँ और निकाली। और जो वर्षा का जल होता है तो वो बह के चला जाता है, तो हमारे इधर एक्सीलेंट डिग्री कॉलेज में ये बोरवेल करवा के पूरा पानी छत का, बरसात का नीचे ज़मीन में जाता है, जिससे कि वाटर लेवल ऊपर आ जाए। और एक इंटर कॉलेज है, इनकी काय से बहुत बड़ी बड़ी छतें होती हैं, बहुत बड़े बड़े भवन होते हैं, तो इनका पूरा पानी नीचे उतार के कि उनका वाटर लेवल और ऊपर आ सके। और सस्ता धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद जमीला जी। धन्यवाद जमीला जी। ये धरातल के वो अनुभव थे जिनके साझा प्रयासों के साथ में हम काम कर पा रहे हैं। जमीला जी के बैकग्राउंड के बारे में बताना चाहता हूँ कि ऐसे ही महिलाओं को संस्थान के द्वारा प्रशिक्षित करके उनकी क्षमता वृद्धि करके एक जल सहेली कैडर के तौर पे उनको तैयार किया जा रहा है, जिनका लगातार रूप से क्षमता वृद्धि कर उनको जल संरक्षण, कृषि प्रोत्साहन के ऊपर उनको क्षमता वृद्धि करके उनको इन्वेल्ट किया जाता है, ताकि वो गांव के स्तर पर जो हमारी जो जल संरक्षण की यात्रा है इसको और आगे बढ़ाएं। और ना केवल इस परियोजना के स्तर तक, इवन परियोजना से आगे, क्योंकि इस परियोजना के आगे भी लगातार रूप से प्रयास होते रहने चाहिए, तो उन प्रयासों के लिए कटिबद्ध हैं और उस प्रकार पे काम कर रहे हैं। धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार। मेरा नाम राजेश कुमार है। मैं आदर्श सेवा समिति से हूँ जो कि वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट सेक्टर में काम कर रही है। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा चरणजीत कौर जी से, शंभू कलान से, करमजीत सिंह जी से, महेंद्र सिंह नंबरदार जी से और मनजीत कौर जी से। ये हमारे सब साथी हैं जो शंभू कलान जो विलेज है वहाँ से आए हुए हैं। अब मैं 2 मिनट में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में क्या काम हुआ और किस तरह की परिस्थितियाँ रहीं और किस तरीके से उनका निराकरण किया गया। आप लोग बैठ लीजिए, है ना। दीदी आप लोग बैठ सकते हैं, मैं एक एक करके बुला लूँगा आप, है ना जी। तो जब हम लोगों ने काम करना शुरू किया तो मॉडल इको विलेज परियोजना से पहले आदर्श सेवा समिति वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट पर काम करती थी, लेकिन हम लोग मेजरली शहरी क्षेत्रों में ही काम कर रहे थे। पहली बार इस परियोजना में हम लोगों को ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में काम करने का मौका मिला। तो ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के काम करने में और शहरी क्षेत्र में थोड़ा दिक्कत ये आती है कि शहरी क्षेत्रों में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का एक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पहले से ऑलरेडी मौजूद होता है जिसमें हमको प्लग इन करने की ज़रूरत होती है, जबकि ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में हमको हर काम को जीरो से करना पड़ा। इवन जो जगह है, जो स्पेस है, जो उसको अलॉट करने के लिए हमको पंचायत से एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के साथ उसको डिस्कशन करना पड़ा। पंचायत की जो भू कमेटी की जो मीटिंग है उसमें नोटिंग करानी पड़ी, उसके बाद उस लेवल को करना पड़ा। साथ में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के व्हीकल को के रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के लिए जब हम लोगों ने आरटीओ में हम लोगों ने एप्लीकेशन डाली तो उन्होंने कहा कि इस तरह के रजिस्ट्रेशन का कोई प्रोविज़न नहीं है। तो फिर हम लोगों को स्टेट कैपिटल में जाके उस कंपनी के साथ बात करनी पड़ी और उसको उन व्हीकल्स को रजिस्टर्ड कराना पड़ा। इस तरह की अलग अलग समस्याएं, चैलेंजेस इस परियोजना में रहे। लेकिन आज के समय में देखा जाए तो इन चारों विलेजेस में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का जो काम है वो बहुत अच्छी तरीके से किया जा रहा है। खासकर शंभू कलान जो इस विलेज से ये 2 दीदियाँ और 2 भाई लोग आए हुए हैं, वहाँ पर 94% घरों से कूड़े का सेग्रीगेटेड वेस्ट हम लोगों को मिलता है। जो हम टीम है, 4 लोगों की टीम है वहाँ पर वो कर रही है और पिछले 1.25 साल से उस गांव में काम हो रहा है, जिसमें कि जो गीला कूड़ा आ रहा है उससे कंपोस्ट बनाने का काम किया जा रहा है। साथ में जो सूखा कूड़ा है, जो प्लास्टिक आ रहा है, उसको रिसाइकिल करके उसको बेंच बनाने का काम, टेबल बनाने का काम, इस तरह का काम हम एक पार्टनर एजेंसी के साथ मिलके कर रहे हैं। तो इसी क्रम में इसी विलेज से हमारे साथ में चरणजीत कौर दीदी हैं। दीदी एक सेकेंड। दीदी हम आपसे ये जानना चाहते हैं कि इस परियोजना के आने से पहले आपके गांव में कूड़े की क्या व्यवस्था हुआ करती थी?
हाँ जी, सत श्री अकाल जी साਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਚਰਨਜੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਆ, ਮੈਂ ਪਿੰਡ ਸ਼ੰਭੂ ਕਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ। ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਹੈ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਵਾਬ। ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇਹ ਇਕੋ ਵੈਲਜ਼ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਆਇਆ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੂੜੇ ਦੀ ਵਿਵਸਥਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕੂੜਾ ਸਿੱਟਣ ਲਈ ਕਿਤੇ ਰਾਤ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਜਲਦੀ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਚੋਰੀ ਸਿੱਟਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਸੀ। ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਐਵੇਂ ਹੀ ਕੂੜਾ ਪਿਆ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੀ। ਲਿਫਾਫੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਪੋਲੀਥੀਨ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਨਾਲੀਆਂ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਰੁਲਦੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਸੀ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਖਾਰ, ਉਲਟੀਆਂ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਬਿਮਾਰੀਆਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਸੀ। ਅਤੇ ਕੂੜੇ ਦਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਦਰੱਖਤ ਲੱਗੇ ਹੋਏ ਸੀ। ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਸਰ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ।
I will just quickly translate what she said. So she's from the Shambhu Kala village, and before this initiative there was no provision for waste management in the village, and they had to secretly dispose it off somewhere, and it was open disposal. There was no infrastructure and not even proper dustbins for them to throw the waste away, and it actually and it actually had public health consequences because it contaminated the water, so there were greater chances of people getting diarrhea and an upset stomach, and those kind of things were prevalent in the village.
आप इधर आ जाइएगा। करमजीत जी, हम ये जानना चाहते थे कि जब से ये मॉडल इको विलेज परियोजना शंभू कला में आया है, 1.5 साल के करीब हो गया, उससे आपके गांव में क्या क्या बदलाव आए हैं, क्या क्या चीज़ें हुई हैं?
मेरा नाम करमजीत सिंह है जी। ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜੀ ਕੂੜੇ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਗੰਦਗੀ थी जी, बेअंदाज जी, कोई पुछे कुछ ना। इस तरह गंदगी का जद के ये आए हैं तो गड्डियाँ लाइया, गड्डियाँ में 2 रजिस्टमेंट डब्बे दिते। उन्होंने डब्बे में एक पासे गिला कूड़ा पाते थे, एक पासे सुक्का पाते हैं जी। तो गड्डी आती है तो गड्डी के विच पा सुट देंगे। हुण बिल्कुल साफ सुथरा काम है जी, बाकी एन वधिया काम चल रहा। रुख भी लाए हैं जी इन्होंने, रुख प्रदूषण करके बहुत वधिया काम हो रहा जी। संयोग पिंड भी दे रहा जी, ये भी पूरे जोर तो ही काम कर रहे हैं जी।
धन्यवाद।
वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह।
So he's saying that now that before the initiative, it was a very filthy and a very dirty place to live in because it was open disposal of waste everywhere. And once they started work, they brought in garbage collection vans or trucks to actually do that, which has 2 sections, wet waste and dry waste. And that is how the community has responded well to it, and now it's much more cleaner. And this has been successful majorly because of the community's cooperation and also the strong efforts that have been put by the organization.
हमारे साथ में महेंद्र सिंह नंबरदार जी भी हैं। नंबरदार साहब, हम आपसे ये जानना चाहते थे कि इस परियोजना के आने से जो लोगों के व्यवहार में कोई बदलाव आया है आपके पिंड के?
हाँ जी, पहले ना जी पिंड में गड्डियाँ आई गई थी, 5-4 के बंदे पाए करते थे। फिर हौली हौली मोहल्ला, फिर सारा पिंड 90% लोग हैं जो कूड़ा गड्डी विच पा के बाहर चले जाता है। इव कुछ लोग साड़ देंगे सी प्रदूषण कारण, वो लोगों ने आपस विच भी उन्होंने को मना करके बंद कर दिया है। इन्हें कहने तो जब साफ सफाई बहुत है। हाँ, एक रुख लगाए हैं, रुख लगाने से प्रदूषण खत्म हो रहा है।
So again, he's talking about the infrastructure that is being brought in place. And earlier people, you know, if they were going out of the village, they would take the trash and dispose it on the sides, and there was no regulation for that. But now with the intervention, the community's perception has changed, and now people respond to the initiative.
मंजीत कौर दीदी, आपसे दीदी आखिर में यही सवाल है कि आपके गांव को देख के बाकी दूसरे गांव के लोग क्या कहते हैं, क्या सोचते हैं आसपास के गांव?
ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਫਾਈ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ, ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਜੀ।
रिलेटिव आते हैं तो थोड़ा डिफरेंट फील होता है उनको?
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਿਆ ਜੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਵੀ ਗਵਾਂਢ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਜੀ।
Okay, so she's saying that her relatives, when they come over, they now appreciate the cleanliness and the initiatives within the village, and they also said, you know, that something like this should also be replicated in their villages, and they appreciate it.
अच्छा, तो थैंक यू वेरी मच। तो पंजाब में हम जिन 2 गांव में काम कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे हमारा 95 to 96% घरों से सेग्रीगेटेड वेस्ट मिलता है, और हम लोग इस गांव में लगातार काम कर रहे हैं जी। थैंक यू।
शुक्रिया। ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਟੀਮ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ। ऑल्सो यूपी टीम, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका कि आपने हमारे साथ ये बातें शेयर करी हैं जो कि हमारे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी था जानना। ऑल्सो थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजेश एंड डॉक्टर अमरदीप फॉर ब्रिंगिंग दीज powerful testimonials for us. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session also marks the launch of a comprehensive knowledge resource. We are thrilled to unveil Mainstreaming Climate Resilience for Rural India, a compendium for models and nomenclatures. And to launch this compendium, I formally invite Mr. Gerald, Ms. Meghna from GIZ, Ms. Mandira and Mr. Amit from Hindustan Unilever, Mr. Vivek from World Resources Institute, Ms. Chaya and Mr. Ujjwal from Vertiver, and Ms. Tanya Sharma from IORA Ecological Solutions. And we are privileged to be joined by Dr. Heera Lal Patel, CEO, State Nodal Agency, Watershed Development Component, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana 2.0, whom I would also like to invite to unveil this compendium. Please. This QR code shown on the slide projected will allow you to access this compendium. Kindly take a moment to scan it, and we encourage you to explore its insights. By now, we understand that integrated approaches hold the key to achieving climate resilience at the rural level. Dr. Heera Patel serves as the CEO for Watershed Development Component, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana 2.0. He has championed the Model Gaon initiative, which works on the integrated rural development. It is my honor to invite him to share his reflects on this ongoing work in Uttar Pradesh. Over to you, sir.
यहाँ छोड़ जाए ना हाँ यस ओके तो आई वेलकम यू ऑल ये थोड़ा दिक्कत भी कर रहा ना एनीवे सो बाय नाउ आई वाज लिसनिंग सीरियसली एंड रियली आई एम अमेज्ड टू सी दैट यू ऑल आर डूइंग वेरी गुड वर्क तो एक आप जो अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं उनके लिए ताली तो ताली में कुछ जान नहीं है, इससे गांव का विकास नहीं होना है, जरा बढ़िया बजाइए और तेजी से। So actually I am an IS officer in UP, serving IS officer. Generally people say, sir, when you retired? But I am serving IS officer and I belong to farming family. I am from a village. So village is in my blood, in my thinking, in my soul, in my heart, everywhere. So I also made a model as district magistrate in district Banda in 1.5 years. And after getting transferred from there, I am replicating it, this model, supported by different good people. We are having in our group good people, me, one CEO, one retired CGM NABARD, and motivated and inspired by ICCI Foundation Chairman Saurabh Singh, then and there. देखिए अभी हम लोग जो बात कर रहे थे, गांव का विकास क्यों नहीं हो रहा, मॉडल गांव, इको विलेज, स्मार्ट विलेज, कुछ भी नाम ले लो, बात वही है। क्या गांव का विकास क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, या व्हाई इट इज नॉट ग्रोइंग एज पर एक्सपेक्टेशंस, इसका बहुत सीधा सवाल है। क्या ये सप्लाई ड्रिवन डेवलपमेंट है, जो हम विकास कर रहे हैं वो सप्लाई ड्रिवन, उनको जरूरत हो, गांव वालों को नहीं है, स्कूल चाहिए नहीं चाहिए बस दे दो स्कूल, क्या अस्पताल चाहिए दे दो, उन्हें चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए, स्कूल खराब हो गया, वेस्टेज ऑफ मनी। ये जो सप्लाई ड्रिवन अप्रोच है ये बहुत बड़ा खतरनाक और घातक है, ये डिमांड ड्रिवन होना चाहिए, पहला अप्रोच। सेकंड जो है, ये गांव का विकास कौन कर सकता है, डीएम कर सकते हैं, ये कर देंगे जर्मन वाले साहब, कोई नहीं कर सकता। गांव का विकास केवल और केवल गांव वाला मिलके कर सकता, और कोई नहीं कर सकता। अगर गांव वाले को आपने समझा लिया, बुझा लिया और पटा लिया तो गांव का विकास हो जाएगा। यही अप्रोच है जिसको आप अंग्रेजी में कम्युनिटी और फलाना फलाना अच्छे वर्ड यूज करते हो, और मैं पटाना वर्ड जब यूज करता हूं तो लोग हंसते हैं मेरे पास। पटाना मीन्स विनिंग द ट्रस्ट ऑफ द विलेजर सोसाइटी, पटाना मीन्स विनिंग। तो एज डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट हमने यही किया। क्या हमने पूरे जनपद को पटाया। ये भी मीरपुर वाले जान रहे हैं, ये सहेली वहेली मैं सब जानता हूँ, ये सहेली वहेली परमार्थ, ये संजय सिंह वाली सहेली है नहीं है, हाँ आई नो ईच एंड एवरीबडी पानी में। अब एक बात और जो थोड़ी सी मैं शेयर करूंगा,
वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द पानी, पानी जल। भैया जल जंगल जमीन को तीनों को एक साथ जब तक बात नहीं करोगे कुछ नहीं होना है। ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी भूल है। हम जल की बात कर रहे हैं, जंगल की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं। जमीन, जल रह ही नहीं सकता जंगल के बिना। आप जंगल पैदा कर दीजिए, जल ऑटोमेटिक वहाँ बारिश ज़्यादा होने लगेगी, रिटेंशन ज़्यादा होगा। तो जल जंगल जमीन तीनों की बात करना चाहिए। हम जो मॉडल गांव में काम कर रहे हैं, हमने जो 1.5 साल में मॉडल बनाया एज ए डीएम, उसी को रिप्लिकेट कर रहे हैं। तो हम क्या करते हैं, हम गांव वालों को विकास क्या है, उसको पूछो गांव वाले से क्या विकास है, तो कहेगा स्कूल, सड़क और फेयर प्राइस, साहब 4-5 चीज़ जानता है। तो हम विलेज मैनिफेस्टो बना के लाए। क्या विलेज मैनिफेस्टो? आप लोग पॉलिटिकल मैनिफेस्टो तो सुने होंगे, हम पहले आदमी हैं हमने जिसमें विलेज मैनिफेस्टो बनाया, और हमने वो अपना वो दिया है आपको का, उसमें 25 मुद्दे हैं, और उस मुद्दों में सब मुद्दा ओवरऑल विकास। तो पहली चीज़ जो यूनिक है, हम लोगों को ये समझाते हैं कि क्या क्या होना चाहिए। खाली 4-5 चीज़ में मत फंसो, सड़क, खड़ंजा, पानी बचाना उनके एजेंडा में नहीं है गांव वालों के, पेड़ लगाना उनके एजेंडा में नहीं है, धरती बचाना उनके एजेंडा में नहीं। आप क्या कर लेंगे स्कूल और दे करके? तो विलेज मैनिफेस्टो के माध्यम से हम उन्हें वो इंडिकेटर बताते हैं 25। ठीक। दूसरा जो है हमारा है चेंज मेकर। हर जगह अच्छे लोग होते हैं। गांव में इस समय जैसे शहर में बुरा लोग अपना झंडा गाड़े पड़ा, ऐसे देहात में भी बुरा लोग ही दिखता है, अच्छा आदमी बेचारा कहीं कोने में। तो हम अच्छे आदमी, सोशली पीपल को लेते हैं, उन्हें चेंज मेकर बनाते हैं। ठीक है, ऐसे 10-15 आदमी चेंज मेकर बना दिया, और अच्छा आदमी के अंदर तो फायर तो ये बस उसमें माचिस लगा देते हैं। अब वो हमारा ये पूरा मॉडल को गांव में प्रचार करते हैं, बिकॉज दे हैव दैट फायर इन देयर बेली। तो हमारा दूसरा अप्रोच है, हम 10-12-15 लोगों को ड्राइवर बना देते हैं। क्या बना देते हैं? ड्राइवर। वो कौन होते हैं? चेंज मेकर नाम दिया हमने। हमारा तीसरा पिलर है। दूसरा पिलर ये है, और तीसरा पिलर जो हमारा है वो है खेती घाटे का सौदा है। खेती किसी को नहीं करना चाहिए। तो क्या करना चाहिए? खेती व्यापार। डोंट डू एग्री, डू एग्री बिजनेस। अब उसके लिए वही पीओ, सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप, डिफरेंट वैरायटी के आइटम्स हैं, और उन्हीं को हम लोग स्ट्रेंथन करते हैं, गांव का एग्री बिजनेस में कन्वर्ट करते हैं, जिससे जो गांव का व्यापार क्या है, खेती, वो मुनाफे में कन्वर्ट हो जाए। तो ये सिंपली हम लोग ये 3 पिलर पे पूरे गांव में घुसते हैं। कहाँ? गांव में पहले हम घुसते हैं, लोगों को जोड़ते हैं। जैसे ये आप अगली स्लाइड आप हमारा देखोगे तो हम कैसे करते हैं, वहाँ के किसानों को पहले कन्विंस करते हैं, फिर वो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप और वुमन को ठीक मतलब उनको इंगेज करते हैं, यूथ को इंगेज करते हैं, ग्राम के जितने सदस्य हैं और जितने गांव में डिफरेंट वैरायटी के वर्कर्स हैं, ऑफिशियल्स हैं, कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे है, ये नम आशा लेखपाल पटवारी, उनसे बात करते हैं। और टेक्नोलॉजी के यूज को गांव में ले जाने के लिए, उसको यूज करने के लिए वहाँ CSC सेंटर हर गांव में उसे यूज करते हैं। और एजुकेटर्स, मास्टर साहब, प्राइमरी स्कूल जो भी होते हैं, इस तरह से हम लोग कैटेगरी वाइज, हमारे पास 10 प्रोफार्मा है, वहाँ से हम सूचना मंगाते हैं और फिर उनसे इंटरेक्ट करके एक ग्रुप बना करके, हम हार्डवेयर पे काम नहीं करते शुरू में, पहले हम सॉफ्टवेयर पे काम करते हैं, सबके दिमाग में घुसते हैं कि आपका विकास, गांव का विकास केवल और केवल आप कर सकते हो। और इसमें हम एंट्री पॉइंट लेते हैं प्रधान को, जो सरपंच होता है, जो मुखिया होता है। अगर प्रधान नहीं चाहेगा ना तो कोई घुस नहीं सकता। तो हमारा जो सरपंच और मुखिया है वही हमारा मेन बात है। तो ये हमारा विलेज चेंज मेकर और ये पीओ की बात हो गई, और ये क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट विलेज, जो ये बातें यही थी। तो मैं आपको बताऊं, अभी जो मैं बातें सुन रहा था, आप लोगों का अप्रोच ठीक है, मैं वो ऐसे कर रहा था। और मैं आपको बताऊं, मेरे कई गांव में ये जो है, एक प्रोफेसर हैं रुपिंदर ओबराय जी, किरोरीमल कॉलेज की मेरे साथ आई भी हैं, ये इनोवेशन प्रोफेसर हैं, इनोवेशन सेंटर चलाती हैं। इन्होंने ये मेरे कई गांव में गई हैं और ये बच्चों के साथ जाती हैं, वहाँ रहती हैं। इन्होंने हमारा कई गाँवों का इवेल्युएशन भी किया है थर्ड पार्टी, जिससे कि ये ना लगे कि हम लोग अपनी बात को स्वयं कह रहे हैं। तो मॉडल गांव, स्मार्ट गांव और इको विलेज। अब इको विलेज करने के लिए मैं एक लाइन में बस बात करके समाप्त करूँगा। आप पानी बचा दीजिए, गांव को हरा भरा बना दीजिए और गांव को प्लास्टिक फ्री कर दीजिए। क्या हो गया इको विलेज। अब हम कह रहे हैं वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट करेंगे, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट नहीं करेंगे, वेस्ट जनरेट नहीं करेंगे, हमें इस पर काम करना चाहिए। तो इसी के साथ आप सभी लोगों का धन्यवाद और आप अच्छा काम कर रहे हो। आपको जो भी सपोर्ट मुझसे जिस भी फॉर्म में चाहिए, आई एम अवेलेबल, आई विल बी हैप्पी टू सपोर्ट यू ऑल। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your valuable experience on Model Gaon in Uttar Pradesh. May I request you to join us as a guest for our next panel as we dive deeper into the discussion on the role of public-private partnership to scale climate-smart villages. Sir, please. I also invite other guests to join the discussion. Dr. Upasana Singh, who is the Associate Professor for the School of Public Policy at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. She specializes in climate change adaptation, focusing on vulnerability, resilience, and risk reduction in farming systems and extreme weather events like cyclones and heat waves. Mr. Vivek, Associate Director for Climate Resilience Practice at World Resources Institute, India, specializes in climate smart development, adaptation finance, and resilience strategies, working to enhance India's climate actions, plans, and sustainable development initiatives. Mr. Pranab Nayak, Program Manager, CSR at ITC, oversees social investment programs across Rajasthan, Haryana, and Gujarat, driving impactful initiatives in natural resource management, climate-smart agriculture, education, livelihoods, health, and women's empowerment. Dr. Tanya Sharma, Senior Manager, Carbon Project Development at IORA Ecological Solutions, brings 8 years of experience in carbon markets and has completed the issuance of multiple projects under voluntary carbon program. Dr. Heera Lal, sir. Sir, please join us for the panel discussion. Okay. And I finally invite the moderator for this event, Ms. Chaya Bhanti, CEO and founder of Vertiver. Over to you, Ms. Chaya.
Thank you very much for attending this session and being very patient as we run out a little bit on time. I'm very pleased to welcome a very cross-disciplinary group of participants here. We have Dr. Upasana Sharma from IIT Delhi, and she has been leading the Center of Excellence there on adaptation, so her perspective would be very valuable as we discuss. Mr. Vivek from WRI actually has to catch a flight, so we will be very quick to jump into discussions, Vivek, with you at the very beginning. Thank you for being here. Dr. Heera Lal Patel, you can see his passion, and he's, has been championing model villages, which can inform all of our work. So thank you so much, sir, for being here. Pranab ji, thank you for coming here from ITC. We know ITC has been doing work in UP and Punjab, and it's wonderful to hear your perspectives. And finally, Dr. Tanya Sharma, thank you for being here from IORA Ecological, which has led the carbon budgeting exercise. So I will begin actually with Vivek ji because he has to leave slightly early. You are at WRI, and you've been working on state action plans on climate change. You've been working with state governments. You've been working on public-private partnership models. We would love to hear from you what your experience has been in creating interventions through the public-private partnership model, specifically because you work so closely with policymakers.
Thank you, Chaya, for that. Just to give a bit of a context, we work on a lot of adaptation and resilience work across our program, and we work predominantly with state level governments, district administrations, and grassroots level panchayats. So just to give another added point here, we also are working on a similar climate smart village model in Tamil Nadu across 11 districts. So we have a first-hand experience of the difficulties that we would face in sort of establishing public-private partnerships, especially in situations where we're talking about resilience building measures at the village level. And so what I've sort of personally seen is that when you talk about coming up with public-private partnerships, the importance is about how do you sort of sustainably keep that going beyond the project or the initial engagement itself. So for instance, we have seen cases where for waste management, there are situations where municipal corporations do sort of aggregate all of their plastics and provide it to private cement companies which use them as raw materials. We've also seen situations where agro-based small enterprises are sort of running at a model where they use raw materials from local agriculture, agroforestry, horticulture produce, and they use them for creating local products, handicrafts through sort of by empowering local communities. That's something that we've seen across different states. We've also seen models where private sector in general has been very keen to sort of invest in solar power for enhancing like the value chain of agro-based products. For instance, we've seen companies invest in cold storage facilities, in dryers, solar dryers, also like solar pumps in different ways, and that sort of helps in reducing the cost of local communities and also increasing the productivity, having consistent power during situations where there is multiple hazards that the communities are facing. So we've seen different models, but I think the challenge is to sort of understand the pulse of the local communities and also see how do you keep this running beyond the initial phase where the support is being provided by the private sector, and sort of gaining local ownership like what the Eco Villages project has also done very successfully. I think that's key to sort of keeping the initiative running beyond any particular period. So I think that's the challenge. And one thing I would like to also maybe add at a later point is on the co-benefits angle, which is also another question. Maybe I can come back to that a little later. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. If you have the time, that'd be great. I'm going to go next to Dr. Upasana Sharma. She has been actually leading a... Oh, so do you have to leave very quickly? Okay, because then maybe I should invite Tanya to put an exercise on data. So just so you know, Tanya has been at IORA Ecological when overseeing work on carbon budgeting, which will actually set the context. So if you'd like before leaving, would you like me to have her present the data? Great. Thank you so much, Tanya. If you could just walk us through what was done at the beginning of the design of this project and what was your research at the end? What did it reflect? Yeah. Do we have slides? Yeah. Just 4 slides. 4 slides.
Thank you, Chaya, for inviting me. So I would request to just quickly go on to the numbers. As already we know the context that there are different interventions that have been undertaken. So around more than 3,500 households were kind of targeted through this project in the 2 locations. Next slide, please. And the prominent work that was done was on waste management. Specifically, when we talk about the dry waste management, the avoided emissions could be of the level of 30,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, which is a humongous number. And even in other villages where the number of participation was relatively less, even the number was around more than 17,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. Next slide, please. When we specifically talk about wet waste management, wherein the initiative was converting the waste into not letting them be disposed in the open dumping, rather convert them into composting, the amount of reduction in the overall emissions were of the level of more than 200 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, which is a significant number. And a similar observation was also observed on a model basis, wherein pond rejuvenation also led to a reduction of around strong and significant amount of CO2 emission reductions, around 100 to 120 tons of CO2 equivalent per pond facility. Next slide, please. Specifically, when we talk about the carbon sequestration, which is the development of the carbon sink, as it was already discussed, that just by 1 year plantation, the numbers were around 90 tons of CO2 equivalent, but when a long-term projection up to 30 years, that is when the plants will be surviving up to 30 years, this could be reached up around more than 1,500 tons of CO2 equivalent. So this all in all clearly indicates that all these interventions, when put together in a holistic and a strategic manner, can lead to a lot of carbon sequestration and also a lot of reduction in the overall carbon emissions. Thank you, I think.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for hurrying through what took several years to put this data together. So thank you so much. Dr. Heera Patel, you have really very much emphasized the need for this convergent approach by focusing on the, communities ko patana, mindset of the communities. However, as you know, public-private partnerships very much depend on the kind of data and evidence that you want to build so that you can garner the large-scale investments. And I would love to understand from you, what kind of data processes do you usually try to dive into, which makes the case for additional investments to be able to be put in your projects?
ये जो पार्टनरशिप की बात हम लोग करते हैं, हमारा ये पार्टनरशिप अधूरा है। हम पब्लिक प्राइवेट, पेड़ पौधा हमारा पार्टनर होना चाहिए। जब पेड़ को आप काटते हैं तो उसका कत्ल करते हैं, आपका काम वही सब तमाम हो गया। तो जो पेड़ है वो हमारा पार्टनर होना चाहिए। जब उसका कत्ल करते हैं, मतलब काटते हैं, मतलब क्या करते हैं? कत्ल करते हैं। तो हम अपने पार्टनर का कत्ल नहीं, तो हमारा ये जो पार्टनरशिप बड़ा लिमिटेड मुझे लगता है। क्या पेड़ पौधे, कुआं तालाब कहाँ रहता है? उसका घर क्या है? उसका घर है वाटर का ड्यूलिंग प्लेस क्या है, रेजिडेंस क्या है? कुआं तालाब नदी। हम उसको घर से निकाल के पाट के उस पर खेती करते हैं, कुछ भी करते हैं। तो हमने अपने पार्टनर, वाटर पार्टनर को घर से निकाल दिया, ये उसके साथ इंजस्टिस करते हैं। तो ये जो पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनर को केवल हम आदमी और प्रधान और गवर्नमेंट तक लिमिटेड रख करके ये सफलता नहीं मिल पाएगी, जो मेरा अपना स्टाइल है काम करने का। हम पेड़ को भी पार्टनर हमें बनाना है, बायोडाइवर्सिटी को, सबको, फ्लोरा फौना जीव जंतु सबको पार्टनरशिप, कत्ल नहीं होना चाहिए पेड़ का। और ये जो आप डेटा कह रही हो कि क्या क्या डेटा इकट्ठा करना चाहिए, देखिए अभी गांव लेवल पे डेटा कलेक्शन का बहुत ज़्यादा चलन नहीं है, ये शायद आपको आइडिया होगा, ठीक है, बहुत वो नहीं है। अब जहाँ तक रही बात डेटा का, तो डेटा में हम तो पहले रिसोर्सेज पे, मैन रिसोर्सेज पे जो हमारे ड्राइवर हो सकते हैं, हम उस पर, जैसे हम 10 फॉर्मेट बनाए हुए हैं कि कौन कौन नौकरी कर रहा, हम उनके डेटा लेते हैं, उनसे अप्रोच करते हैं। गांव में 30-32 तरह के एम्प्लॉई हैं, हम उनका डेटा लेते हैं। वहाँ जो ये रिलीजियस फेलोज हैं, क्या मंदिर वाला, मस्जिद वाला, गुरुद्वारा वाला, उनको पटाते हैं। अगर वो कोई बात कह देंगे तो पूरा गांव मानेगा, भले ही डीएम की बात माने ना माने, लेकिन अगर जो महंत जी कह देंगे, बाबा जी कह देंगे उस मंदिर के, तो हम लोग उनको माध्यम से जाते हैं। तो हम लोगों का जो ये अप्रोच है अभी गांव में इस तरह का करने का, और ये जो क्रॉप प्रोडक्टिविटी, डाइवर्सिटी, क्रॉप डाइवर्सिटी, ये सब डाटा हम लोग तो लेते ही हैं, लेकिन हम लोगों का मेन होता है कि चेंज द माइंडसेट, चेंज द मैन। क्या हम हार्डवेयर पे उतना काम नहीं करते, हमारा जो फिलॉसफी है सॉफ्टवेयर। एक बार अगर हमारे दिमाग, हमने आदमी को कन्वर्ट कर लिया तो वो दिमाग भी ले आएगा, पढ़ लेगा। गूगल में सब कुछ दिमाग है, गूगल में कहीं आपको जाने की जरूरत नहीं, जितना डेटा और जितना तरह वैरायटी आपको चाहिए, एवरीथिंग इज देयर। तो हमारी जो डेटा वाली फिलॉसफी है, इनिशियली हम मैडम यही डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं। हमारे 10 फॉर्मेट हैं, उनसे वो डेटा लेके मोबाइल पर कन्विंस करते हैं उनको कि गांव का विकास आप कर सकते हो। उनको हम ग्रो करते हैं डिफरेंट तरीके से, ट्रेनिंग से, इस तरह सेमिनार में भी बुलाते हैं, लखनऊ बुलाते हैं, मोटिवेट करते हैं, मोबिलाइज करते हैं। तो जो बेसिक डेटा है इस पर हम काम करते हैं। हम वहाँ क्रॉप प्रोडक्टिविटी, ये सब, और जो हमारे गवर्नमेंट के एजेंसीज हैं उनके प्रोग्राम को हम गांव में ले जाते हैं। तो हमारा रोल है कोऑर्डिनेटर, फैसिलिटेटर का। हम देते होते कुछ नहीं है, केवल बुद्धि देते हैं और उनको बुद्धि से जोड़ते हैं। तो इन नट सेल दिस इज द फिलॉसफी। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, sir. And I think many of us working in the development space are also contending with qualitative versus quantitative data. आपकी बात सही है कि qualitative मतलब इस approach से काफ़ी large scale change आ सकता है। थोड़ा चैलेंज इसमें ये रहता है कि अगर हम कार्बन फाइनेंसिंग और आगे आने वाले थोड़े इन डेटा, इस रिसोर्स को लेवरेज करना चाह रहे हैं, तो थोड़ा ज़्यादा कॉन्क्रीट डेटा की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, तो कुछ शायद बैलेंस में बात करने की ज़रूरत है। थैंक यू सो मच सर. तो
मुझे इजाजत दे दीजिए.
जरूर सर. आप अगर कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स में कुछ भी कहना चाहें मोस्ट
नहीं
वेलकम
नहीं,
टू.
हमें कह दिया. आपका अप्रोच मुझे ठीक लगा. आप लोगों का काम करने का जो अप्रोच है वो मुझे ठीक लगा है. उसको थोड़ा सा वाइड करना है, स्प्रेड करना है, वो देख लिया.
थैंक यू सर.
उसको और नीचे तक जाना है. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू सो मच.
अच्छा काम कर रहे हो आप लोग. एक्चुअली मेरा वहाँ 3 बजे बैठक लगी थी मैंने डिपार्टमेंट का, और वहाँ पीपल आर वेटिंग. आई एम गेटिंग कॉल.
एब्सोल्युटली सर. थैंक यू सो मच.
अच्छा नहीं लग रहा बीच में जाते हुए.
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
ओके, थैंक यू.
We now move to Dr. Upasana Sharma. As I was saying, that she's been a very integral part of the new Center of Excellence on Climate Change Adaptation at IIT Delhi. And I think her work actually is exactly trying to solve this wicked challenge of the kinds of data you need to inform policy making. So I would love to know from you, Dr. Sharma, what are the specific research areas that you're focusing on to enable climate change adaptation in rural areas?
Thank you, Chaya. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So I'll just go straight to the matter. So at the Center for Excellence and Adaptation to Climate Change, it's a very new center. We have just started work. And so we're starting with some initial reviews where we're trying to understand in different sectors, whether it's agriculture, water, disaster risk reduction, health, what is it that's working? So trying to understand effectiveness of different kinds of interventions, whether they are piecemeal or whether they are integrated, but what works, what doesn't, what are some of the indicators of what is working, and what are the key enablers and barriers for these interventions to be adopted. A very, very important question, and that is something the center is very interested in working on. I personally am interested in working on as a researcher, and some of my colleagues are interested in. After hearing all of you, what resonates with us is the question of scale up. So while pilots are there, many successful pilots are there, how do you scale up? So how do you build an ecosystem? How do you basically, again, it very beautifully also touches on the question of transitions to sustainability. So how do you think about creating ecosystems that will help transition to sustainability? Successful pilots are super important as demonstration projects. However, scale up is a different question altogether because of varying kinds of physical, environmental, cultural contexts. One thing that worked in one pilot may not work in another pilot. So, and there are many past examples. I mean, look at the Green Revolution, right? So there was a certain model, certain resources that were inputted, different kinds of institutions that were built, extension networks, input suppliers, everybody. There's a whole ecosystem which played a role in the scale up of that Green Revolution model. So similarly over here, how are we going to imagine and understand what is going to be the ecosystem for transitions to sustainability? Of course, I'm not even going into the very contested domain of what is sustainable and what is sustainability. I'll park that for today. But I think scale up is a very important question. I would be very happy to partner, for example, with your program to understand what kind of institutions are leading to the success, and what are the principles underlying these that are scalable elsewhere, So those are the kind of academic questions coming from a very academic background. Those are the kind of academic questions we are very interested in. I'll stop for now, and if there are questions, we can always take it later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. I think one thing that comes to mind also is in your work, what role anecdotal evidence can play, and maybe all of what we saw in some ways is both anecdotal and quantitative, so we can figure out in the next round for you to reflect. So Vivek, you were, do we have the time to go to Pranavji before coming to you? Thank you. Pranavji, ITC has been doing a lot of work on climate smart villages. We know their work in Punjab, in UP. What are your experiences in being able to support interventions that bring public-private sectors together, and how sustainable are those solutions?
Okay, thank you, Chaya, for inviting me to this workshop, basically. Coming to the ITC things, basically, we are dealing with a lot of commodities. so we have to, it is the essential part that we have to secure our value chain, crop value chain. So de-risking our crop value chain and basically scientific approach of doing the climate things is basic requirement of ITC itself. So apart from that, while we are basically doing these things, we are thinking these processes from 2013. We have started thinking how our crop value chain will be secure and farmer will get benefit from these things. After 2013, we have this in 2017 we have piloted this climate smart village program. So the question is that from 2013 to 2017, what we people are doing? Basically, we are doing research. We are basically doing the research things, how to design this project, how to design this climate smart village program through different interventions. Intervention the second part, but the first part is what is the risk basically coming to the farmers. So we have to identify the risk that maybe then after that we will think about the intervention or maybe plan. So what we'll, at that time what we did, we have a partnership with CGIR. Basically CGIR people help us to design this project. They have assessed the risk parameter through various research. So from 3 to 4 years we have done the research things in our particular crop value chains. So across India, in 19 states and in basically if you see near about 10 lakh farmers and 2.25 lakh acres, we are currently covering through our CSB program. This is not for only sustaining our value chain, also for mutual benefit to the farmers also. So at that time, we assess the risk parameters, then design a portfolio for the same. So what are the different portfolio to be implemented in the ground and pilot in 2017, and now the thinking about the scale up things, and till now we are covering this much coverage. So first of thing, it is required, if you see the it is a data centric approach. Scientific approach need to be done for this to build the resilience. Okay, so this is just for yeah. Then if coming to other part, I will discuss. Okay.
We're going to take just a quick round of reflections from all of you so that we're sort of at the tail end of this session, but these insights are very valuable. For you, Vivekji, you talked about co-benefits. How do you think co-benefits can be framed to bring in and catalyze a lot of public-private partnerships?
So I think in WRI we did a sort of very recent exercise. It's not yet out, but we have this sort of framework called the triple dividend approach. That's basically outlining the benefits of investing in, let's say, resilience and adaptation. So we look at it as like, one, what sort of losses it helps in avoiding. The second thing is what sort of induced economic benefits it leads to. And the third is looking at environmental and social benefits. So what we did was we actually looked at 350 plus projects by different banks, ADB, World Bank, across 13 countries, and tried to understand what are the sort of benefits they lead to. And we looked at, I think, 9 sectors, including agriculture, water, infrastructure, all of this. So what we actually found was that there is significant benefit that a community can actually derive by investing in, let's say, agriculture. So if you're looking at sustainable agriculture, it leads to sort of energy consumption reduction. It helps in increasing productivity. It also helps in reducing transmission distribution losses. It also leads to sort of water conservation by itself. It leads to alternate livelihood chains that are being created. Similarly, we looked at, let's say, public infrastructure. We realized that it helps in boosting tourism. It helps in reducing emissions because vehicular sort of movement is reduced. It looks at local businesses being augmented. So many things. So it's tough to sort of summarize it in a small period of time. But what we did was try to create a case for why private sector can sort of start investing in adaptation and resilience, and how can that actually be married together with the public finance system, so the impact can be scaled, because you need to sort of impinge on the public finance machinery so it can reach the masses across different areas. So we try to create a case for that. So I'm happy to discuss this offline, but it's just a work in progress. Thanks.
Great. We are, I'm getting signs that we're just out of time. Please give me just 5 minutes for the speakers to just conclude their thoughts. Tanya, I'm going to come to you, but I want to just have a concluding thought from Dr. Sharma for a second. I wanted specifically to understand how you see such anecdotal evidence, such as what has emerged today in a project, and how can that be factored into your, considerations and recommendations?
Yeah, that's a very important question, Chaya. And unfortunately, anecdotal evidence does not enjoy the kind of legitimacy that the so-called scientifically collected data does. However, I think in the climate adaptation space, in the resilience space, we do not have the resources and the bandwidth to do scientifically proven methods all the time at the scale at which we have to actually implement things. So I think anecdotal evidence, particularly if you're seeing the same kind of evidence over a period of time, and even if it's anecdotal, but that has some value. And I think some legitimacy needs to be created for that through dialogue with different kinds of constituencies, that if we are seeing something again and again, even if it's anecdotal, it has value, it is giving us a signal, and we need to act on that. So I do see a lot of space for it. However, we need to build ways and dialogue to legitimize it more so that it's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. Tanya, if you could just describe carbon budgeting in like a couple of sentences, I think it would be really helpful for the team here.
Yeah, so basically carbon budgeting is an exercise which can add quantity to the emission reductions that can be accrued through any interventions that we take at eco-village level or even at a very small scale. So what carbon budgeting gives us, it provides us with a platform to be able to provide numbers and value to what interventions are being undertaken. And specifically when we talk about the global carbon finance, so there's a lot of opportunity that can be leveraged, because there are multiple methodologies also which provide an opportunity that we can have carbon finance kind of pitching into mainstream and development of the climate resilient eco-villages. So yeah, I think there's a lot of synergy there in terms of carbon budgeting and merging global carbon finance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And for anybody that is interested later on, I think there is a whole, later on we will be putting out a report on carbon budgeting, so you can access it later. So Pranav ji, finally I'll come to you. You have talked about a very important component, and in some ways the investment from a private sector person to de-risk their value chains is actually going to be the most impact oriented, because you're actually trying to access your raw materials. What role do you see people such as who are on the table, for example, an academic, someone who's actually leading work on climate change adaptation, or somebody who's a think tank, or somebody who's providing some quantitative research, what role can they play in scaling up your work?
Okay. Basically, what happened now, if you design some program now, a lot of stakeholder engagement is required. Basically, if you see the research part, the research organization, the universities, other institutions play an important roles. Second thing, implementation. If you design the portfolio of implementation, the work, there is civil society is there. And third thing is, if you develop a successful model and scale it up to you have to scale it up in a large scale, then government play an important role. Otherwise, see, ITC, maybe other company also, they have create model, but they are not. They have limited resources, limited funds, so they will not able to scale it up. So government play an important role. So from 2017 we have implemented in only 17 villages. Now we have crossing 10,000 villages. With the support of the civil societies, this government, we have successful demonstration the model, showcase this model to with evidence, showcase this model to government, and government help us in Rajasthan, in UP, in MP also. We have a large scale partnership with the government. So the key stakeholders roles, if you see, there is different roles for different key stakeholders. So first of thing, we have to develop some integration. We have to work on our models, successful models. Then evidence may be created, otherwise you can showcase your programs. So this approach will maybe helpful to scale up the things, I think.
Thank you very much. I know all of us have a lot more questions for them, and I'm sure they are available after this for you to discuss. But thank you so much, dear panelists. Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for being here in your very frenetic schedule. Pranabji coming in from Jaipur. Vivek, thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Sharma, another Dr. Sharma, Tanya, thank you for joining us. And with that, we conclude this panel. Thank you.
A big thank you to our panelists and moderator for their valuable insights. As we close today's session, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us today for this important discussion. Your engagement, curiosity, and commitment to sustainability are truly inspiring. A special thank to our esteemed speakers and panelists for sharing their expertise, perspectives, and experiences. I'm sure that we can build on today's insights and create a coordinated approach to make India's villages climate resilient and environmentally friendly. Once again, on behalf of everyone in our organizing team, we thank you for your time and participation. Thank you all.